Aaron sat quietly on his apartment balcony, watching the sun dip below the Istanbul skyline, the air heavy with the salt of the Bosphorus. Below, the city murmured. Car horns, children's laughter, the faint call to prayer weaving through the narrow streets. Yet inside Aaron's mind, all felt still. For weeks, maybe months, he had carried the feeling of a storm pressing against his chest. Deadlines, emails, meetings, expectations, each task piling up like waves battering a fragile boat. His family's voices echoed within him. When will you settle down? And will you achieve more? When will you become serious? But even louder was the voice he never escaped. The whisper that came in the late hours, when the apartment was dark. You are not enough. That Sunday, unable to bear another restless afternoon indoors, Aaron found himself wandering the old streets of the city, the stone beneath his feet worn smooth by time. Without thinking, he turned into a narrow alley and stopped in front of a tiny bookstore wedged between two busy. Its window was cracked, its sign faded, but something about it pulled at him. Inside, among the uneven wooden shelves, his hand paused over a plain, unremarkable book. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. That night, back on the balcony with the sky turning dark and the lights of Istanbul flickering alive, he opened it and read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The words sat heavy in his hands. Could it really be that simple? Could he loosen his grip on the world outside and turn his gaze inward, toward the one thing always within his control? The next morning, before touching his phone, Aaron began a small practice. He sat with a notebook and asked himself, what is in my power today? What is not? At first, the answers felt clumsy. I cannot control my boss's mood, or the deadlines, or what people think of me. But slowly, across the weeks, he began to see the edges of his own influence more clearly. I can control my effort, my honesty, my presence, my attitude. When a colleague snapped at him, Aaron took a deep breath and let the anger pass without answering back. When he saw news about markets crashing or layoffs spreading, he reminded himself that fear would not help him prepare. When his mind fell into old habits, comparing himself to classmates with fancier jobs or bigger apartments, he paused, shut the screen, and returned to the moment, to his own two hands, to his own next step. But then, as life often does, came the real test. His company announced cuts, and one quiet Thursday afternoon, Aaron was told his role was being eliminated. For a moment, the old storm surged inside him. Panic, fear, the familiar voice whispering, "See, you failed, you were never good enough." But this time, something inside him steadied. He opened his notebook and began to write. I cannot control the company's decisions. I cannot control the market. But I can control how I meet this moment. Over the next 2 months, Aaron applied calmly to jobs, updated his resume, reached out to old contacts, and kept his daily rhythm steady. He was not perfect. There were days of doubt, of exhaustion, but he held the line. In time, a new role appeared, one better suited to his strengths, one offering space to rebuild. Sitting once again on his balcony, the old meditations worn and dog-eared in his lap, Aaron smiled quietly. He understood now that stoicism was not about walling himself off from emotion or pretending the world could not touch him. It was about learning to see where his true power lay, about accepting the shifting tides of fortune without surrendering his inner compass. Jobs would come and go, money would rise and fall, people's opinions would change, but his own character, his own choices, his own way of meeting life, that was his to hold. And in that, at last, he felt free.